I call to order the March 4th, 2019 Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. First order of business is citizens with CAC business to present to the CAC. Yes, Heather.
I think there was an indication we wanted to do a roll call attendance. So we would have to do an attendance before that.
Okay. Is there a roll call on the attendance?
Fred Clausen. David Boyd.
Here.
Dale Gilmore.
Here.
Joe Heinrich.
Here.
Elizabeth Hodges.
Here.
Jim Hebner. Mark Holloway.
Here.
Reagan Johnson.
Here.
Christina Kelly.
Here.
Chad Kiefer.
Here.
Tammy Lord. Here. Renita Mack.
Here.
Chris Miller.
Here.
Martha Neal.
Here.
Joseph Ogleton.
Here.
All right. Next order of business is citizens with CAC business to present to the CAC. Seeing none, we will review and approve the minutes of the February 4th, 2019 meeting. Yes, Fred.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next order of business is review and accept the financial reports through November and through January. Yes, Heather.
Just as a reminder, last month the financial report was inadvertently left out of the packet. So in your packet this month, you have one report which is through November, which should have been included in last month's packet, and one report which is through January, which is obviously the current one. So you can, at your choosing, approve them both with one motion or with separate motions as you decide.
Yes, Mark.
I make a motion to approve
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the action item of year 45 CDBG allocation recommendations. Yes, Heather.
Just as a reminder for all of you and some of you who are new members of where we've been and where we are now. So we have gone through a process of public input and consultation last summer. In October, we set local objectives for this upcoming fiscal year. In November, we reviewed and approved the application, and we had our application workshop. In December, our potential applicants worked on their applications, and they were due the very beginning of January. And then in January, the CAC had a work session to meet and go over the applications, review questions. In February, we had a presentation meeting, so applicants came in and made their formal presentations to the CAC with another opportunity to ask questions if there were any. And then we came down to the last step, which was the scoring. So all of you worked through the applications, submitted scores, and what you have before you now is the tabulated scores, which are the completed total scores from all 15 of you for each of the applicants. So that's where we stand at the moment. What I'll do, if it's okay with you, is we'll just go through a really brief reminder of what the formula calculated allocation looks like, how we get those numbers. What I want to remind you all is that the formula allocation is just a recommendation. So the CAC is not bound by the calculated amounts. You can choose to accept them in whole or in part. The process for making a change to the formula calculated amount was approved by the CAC 3 or 4 years ago. And the way that it would work is that for an applicant that you want to make a change to, you would identify the applicant you'll be removing funding from, the applicant you'd be moving funding to, and the reason that you would propose making the change. That would be in the form of a motion. You would need a 2/3 majority vote in support of that motion to pass. The reason for this is that the formula assumes all dollars are awarded. So the formula calculated amount is going to have 100% of the expected grant awarded. So in order to make changes to it, you would have to reduce someone to increase another applicant. So that's kind of just your reminder, is that these are just a formula calculation, which is a suggested way to going forward, but the CAC is in no way bound by those calculations. So what I'll do is I'll go through a really brief PowerPoint just outlining the way the formula works, and we'll pause for questions after that and then move on. If that's okay? Can you all hear me okay from over here? I'm kind of loud. The way the CAC recommends funding went through an evaluation period and a revision about 5 years ago, and was changed to a system where the points are tied directly to dollars. There have been a number of systems through the years, but this one seems to be one that has really stuck. So the way that it works is we have, gotta find my laser. It's not on. There. 15 CAC members, which is all of you fine people. We're giving the example here of the public services. The non-public services work just a tiny bit different. In this case, we have 15 CAC members. You reviewed 8 public service applications. Each application could receive up to 100 points from each of the members, which means that there's a total universe of 12,000 points that were available. If each and every one of you gave each and every application 100 points, that would be 12,000 points. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Dale.
but as a CAC member, I cannot give 5 points, 5 discretionary points to each of I can only give a certain amount of points total.
That's correct. So the discretionary points was a small change that was made about 2 years ago. It used to be a universal formula. But in theory, the concept is still the same, where any applicant could get up to 5 of those discretionary points. So they can't get all 25 of them. All 8 applicants can't get 5 each, but each applicant is eligible for up to 5, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
Correct. Everyone can't get 5, but each individual one, in theory, could get 5 from you. Does that make sense? So, yeah, if you look at one applicant alone, that applicant could get 5 from you, leaving aside the whole bigger issue. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. You have this in front of you as a graph, by the way, if you want to look closer up or if it's too far away. So, then, because there are all of these points available, the only way all of those points would be 100% awarded is if each and every one of you gave as many as you could to each and every applicant. But because, in this world, not everybody gets a perfect score for everything from everyone, there's going to be the points that are awarded, but then there's some points that are left on the table based on the scores, because not everybody gets a perfect score. And so that's this dotted section here. So the way that the formula works is there's a pie of points that are available. And about 5 years ago, the CAC decided they wanted a more direct tie between the points and the dollars. So the way it was done was there's a pie of points available, some are left on the table. Those tie directly to the pie of dollars that are available. And again, because some points were left on the table, some dollars are left on the table. But HUD doesn't like us to leave dollars on the table. They want all of our grant allocated every single year, because if we leave money floating out there, it looks like we don't need it. So in this example, the points, the pie of dollars is $250,000. Now this is because in the public service category, remember, HUD has capped what can be spent among public services. So HUD caps that at 15% of our annual entitlement grant, plus 15% of the program income that we anticipate earning next year, which you can't count dollars before you have them, so we use a conservative estimate of what we think that will earn. that's where we get the number of 250. That is our estimate of how much we will be able to spend in public service dollars next year while still complying with HUD's cap. So in this example, for each point that was awarded, each point is worth about $20, but because not all the points were awarded, there's about 38,000 left on the table, in theory. So the formula goes one step further, and it takes that unawarded dotted section, and it awards them by giving each of the applicants a little bit more money, but it starts at the top scoring one and awards a little bit more, and then the next one gets a little bit more, but it's less. The next one gets a little bit more, but still less, until we run out of money. So that's how all the dollars get awarded, even though all the points weren't awarded in the score. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yes, Reagan.
So, if the top score service or whatever is already maxed out, then it just goes.
Correct. So in their application, each applicant had to request a dollar amount. So whatever that dollar amount that they requested is the maximum that they will be eligible to receive. We can't award them more money than what they requested. So in the example that you give, if the top applicant on the first go round got 100% of the money that they requested, on this second section of, I keep hitting the wrong button, of sliding in a little more on each one as we go down, they wouldn't be eligible for more because they're already at their limit. So then it would just go to the next highest scorer, give them a little bit, the next higher scorer, give them a little bit, on down until we run out of money. Is there anything else that I can answer about how the formula works?
Fred.
I was just going to say that if HUD comes up with more money than anticipated, it'll go through a similar kind of process. And again, if they've already maxed out, then it takes care of the ones who have not.
So to that point, in front of you, each you have a sheet that outlines what the expected motions are tonight. And I'll just run through what the steps are just so that you kind of all have a little bit of a preview. You know what's coming. So the first motion that we will need, not right this moment, I'm overviewing. The first motion we would need would be to decide whether you're going to address the non-public services or the public services first. That's completely your choice. It doesn't matter which one goes first. The dollar amounts don't change because remember that public service category is capped. So no matter what happens, they're only going to get an estimated of $250,000, and that's because of HUD regulation. So you pick which one you want to go with first. Once you pick one, let's say, for example, you do non-public services first, you would need to, in non-public services, it's a little bit different. So there are the administrative lines for housing rehab and planning and administration. Those you would have to vote on a dollar amount for. And then the formula will calculate the rest of the allocation amounts, the estimated allocation amounts in the non-public service category. So you would need just a motion to approve a dollar amount for planning and administration, a motion to approve a dollar amount for housing rehab administration, and then a motion to approve the public services for ED, economic development and housing rehab. So that would be in the non-public services. If you go with the public services, you would need a motion just to go through. This would be where we would talk about if you want to move money around. So we'll discuss each of the applicants from the top scoring down. If there's any discussion on any of the individual applicants, that would be the time if you have a question you want to raise or a concern. That would be the time if you have a motion that you would like to make to move money around to reduce money from someone else to give to that applicant or vice versa. So remember that since the formula awards all of the money, in order to increase someone, you have to decrease somebody else. So your motion has to identify who you're taking the money from, who you're giving the money to, and your justification or your proposed reasoning for that change. And that would take a 2/3 majority vote. Once we've gone through both the non-public services and the public services, we will go to approving the whole slate of recommendations. And this we do on another tab in the spreadsheet. So you'll get the chance to see all of the allocations on one page, see how they look, make sure you feel good about them, any last minute changes if you have any, and then you'll approve the full slate. Included in there too, it will be a motion to approve the use of program income for the administrative lines. About 3 or 4 years ago, the CAC asked to approve those annually. So you'll have that list in front of you, and you can make a motion to approve or not approve program income for those lines. And that's kind of our game plan for tonight. So remember also that the CAC is a recommendation body. So you are voting tonight to recommend allocation amounts to City Council. City Council is the body that actually approves the allocations. So you're making a recommendation this evening. City Council will hold a public hearing on this on March 20th and approve or disapprove on March 27th. So City Council has the opportunity to approve in whole or in part this allocations. They can accept the entire slate, they can make some changes, they can throw it out and throw it back to you, which hardly ever happens, but it has happened. So that is kind of the path going forward. And then just so that you know, this is all for the program year that begins July 1st. So this is for the year that's upcoming, that's about to start in July. All of this prep work we have to have done now because we have to submit our formal plan to HUD in May. So we have to have this done and get it through council before we can submit that plan. So, questions about the process? All right. So first we would look for a motion, Chair, for addressing public services or non-public services.
Yes, Fred.
I would move that we adjust, or that we look at, examine public services first.
Okay, roll call.
David Freund, Gail Gilmore,
Yes.
Joe Heinrichs,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hodges,
Yes.
Jim Hefner,
Yes.
Mark Holloway,
Yes.
Reagan Johnson,
Yes.
Christina Kelly,
Yes.
Chad Keeper,
Yes.
Tammy Lord,
Yes.
Bernita Mack,
Yes.
Chris Miller,
Yes.
Martha Neal,
Yes.
Joseph Ogleton,
Yes.
Fred Clausen.
Yes.
Motion carries. Heather?
So you have this printed out on a legal size sheet in front of you if you'd rather look at it up close, but it's also here on the screen for you. So what you're seeing here is the first column is what was requested. The second column is what share of that pie of points each applicant received in the public service category. This column is the column of the equivalent number of dollars to their share of points. So they're guaranteed at least X amount of dollars because they got X amount of points. Then we have to go through a process of adding money, which we do in 2 steps, that extra money left on the table. Step 1 is that descending percentage. So this year we had 8 applications. So this was what was left on the table, the 38,000. So we have 8% of that remainder, 7%, 6%, 5%, and it just descends on down. At the end of that process, we had this amount left, 19,438. So then we divide that evenly, or as close to evenly as we can. You can see there's a $2 adjustment there. And that's how we get to a final number. However, we can't award more than what was requested over here. So we have to go through and reduce some of the awards to get them down to what was requested. And that means we have to increase the ones that weren't already at their caps to make that change. So what we come to is this final number, which is the total formula calculation, which is, there on the screen in front of you. So you can see from the top scoring down, this is the top scorer and this is the lower scorer. So what the CAC would need to do now is we will, Chair, if you please, to discuss the applicants one at a time from top scoring down. If anybody would have a proposed motion to move money from one applicant to another, You would need to just identify both sides of that and your reasoning, and then we would take a 2/3 majority roll call vote on that motion as we just move through those. So that would be the process now.
Yes, Vernita.
I would make a motion to move funds to Big Brothers and Sisters of the Quad Cities. Do I have to recommend how much? Okay. And from, okay,
And your justification.
okay. And from the CDBG Economic Development Fund? No? No,
Because
no, no, no.
That's a non-public and we can't take money from a non-public.
The public services.
Yeah, you can only take money from right here. So you're gonna have to take it from another organization.
Let me think about it for a second.
Okay, that's okay. And for everyone's benefit, that is a point that I should make clear. Because HUD has put a cap on public services, the formula assumes we're going to award the full amount possible in public services. So within that public service category, money can be moved around within it, but not outside of it. So you can move money from public services to non-public services, but you cannot move money from non-public services into public services because the formula assumes we're already allocating the maximum that we can. Unfortunately, it's a category that's very competitive because of the cap and there's a lot of need there, but HUD has established a limit.
Yes, Fred.
Yeah, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm not, there's some cities do not do the public service part of it. It's not required that you do that.
That's correct. Some cities don't do public services at all. And I believe Rita says on an annual basis, we are in the minority of cities who include program income in their calculation for public services. Most cities will calculate only the 15% of their entitlement grant and not program income. And that's just because, as I said earlier, you can't really count dollars you don't have. So anytime that we are including program income in that calculation, we're anticipating income. And we do a conservative anticipation, but we're anticipating income that we're going to earn next year, and you never really know what you're going to get on program income next year. So, so most cities don't include program income in that calculation when they do public services at all. So you're correct about that, Fred. I do think, Vernita, if you think you might change your motion, I think you have to withdraw the one that's on the floor.
Okay, I withdraw my motion for now, for right now.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe it might be helpful perhaps if you just start at the top and we can work our way down, recognizing we can always come back if there's a decision to come back.
Is there any discussion on Friendly House? Project renewal? Yes, Dale.
Yeah, I've got a question. Now, let's say, can I throw out a hypothetical? Okay, let's say that Friendly House had asked for 50,000 instead of 30. Okay, and the points that they got gave them 28.5. Then they would have received more of the additional points than 1,500.
That's correct.
Okay, so then, isn't it to everybody's advantage to ask for more money?
Well, I mean, so when an applicant submits an application, they have to submit an application and say what they're spending the money on, and they also submit their budget. So they can't typically just put down a number. It has to be supported by what their budget says. So, like, for example, if we're paying one position, that position is paid whatever that position is paid. So requesting more beyond that wouldn't be able to be justified by their budget. But in theory, yes, the more that they request, the more potential they have under their request to get the quote additional dollars.
So the reason that Friendly House only got 1,500 more than Project Renewal was because Friendly House was closer to their budget or closer to the points than
They were closer to what they had requested on the first pass through, so they got less additional money on the second pass through.
My light bulb just went off.
Great. Nope. That's what we're here for. Light bulb moments.
Okay, Boys and Girls Club. Family Reese. Yes, Reagan.
I just want to make a note. I'm doing some quick calculations and math here. It looks to me, as I'm going down here, so, I mean, obviously, they're sort of in order of how we have allocated them, right?
They're in rank order based on their scores.
Right.
yes.
So both Friendly House and Project Renewal they're getting 100% of what they requested. And then Boys and Girls Club, I've calculated, is getting roughly 87%.
Okay.
Family Resources Safe Path is getting roughly 95% of what
Okay.
they requested. And then going down, it's 83%. Vera French is at 100, obviously. Humility of Mary is 80. And I didn't do the last one just yet, but it's low, about 50%. So I guess I just am thinking out loud here. But that it would make sense that we would want to give, a higher percentage of the request to the favored service.
That is a perennial discussion, and I will leave to the CAC. I know this has come up before, and in theory, it should be just a perfect descending order, but because we don't control what they request, we can't control what percentage of that request that they get, because, we could have 3 applicants in a row, and you do have here, where we have 36,000, 40,000, 28,000. So the percentages could get a little odd because we don't control what they request. But I will leave that to the CAC to discuss.
Yes, Fred.
If they'd all requested $50,000, the top 2 probably would have been close to the 50,000. Everybody else would have been really, really a lot lower. So, I mean, that's how it shakes out that way. Well, the Salvation Army requested $50,000. Okay. If the Friendly House, Project Renewal, and the Boys and Girls Club had all requested 50,000, there'd be probably close to 150 gone right there. So the rest of them would probably be down around the 10s, the 20s. So that's kind of how that formula adjusts.
Yes, Reagan.
Got it. I think where it comes into play is the leftover pie and how that gets divvied.
So I will go back and give a little history lesson. Let me scroll over here. Okay. So the first couple of years that the CAC went to a formula recommendation versus the previous method, I always kind of called it the ice cube tray method. So the formula would go through, you'd get a dollar amount based on the number of points that you got. And then the dollars would just cascade. Everybody would get fully funded, and then when ran out of money, up to their request, down to the next one, they'd hit their request, down to the next one, they'd hit their request, kind of like an ice cube tray, just filtering down. And then we would hit a point where we ran out of money, and there was kind of a cliff there. So, let's say it was number 5 where they ran out of money, that one might get 98% of their request, and then the next one might only get 25% of their request. So there was a big drop off in the difference between that point where the money ran out, essentially. So about 3 years ago, the CAC revisited the formula, and do keep in mind that after this session next month, we will revisit all of this again. We have kind of call it afterglow of the application process where you can have a chance to go back and revisit the formula for next year while it's still fresh in your mind. But they went to a different system because the feeling was that cliff was just so sharp that, you could have a 1 or a 2 point difference between applicant number 5 and applicant number 6, but yet it was a $20,000 difference in dollars just because we ran out of money. And so what they went to was this system here where it's descending percent. So the decision was made, however many applicants that we have, there was going to be a percent awarded. So we have 8 applicants this year. So the top scorer gets 8% of that leftover money. The next one gets 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So it cascades based on their rank. But even with that, at the end, I'm so afraid I'm going to hit you right in the eye, Dawn. Can you move over there? So, you're like directly in my line of sight. Sorry. So even after doing that kind of cascade, which is a gentler cascade than what we used to use, there's still money left on the table. And so that was where the decision of the CAC was just to divide that up equally. The feeling at the time being we're still rewarding their rank order, but it's not quite such a huge difference in dollar amount, where if you're number 5, you get $10,000 extra dollars, but if you're number 6, you only get $2,000 extra dollars. The feeling was it just needed to be more gradual. So that's kind of the history of how that is, which isn't to say for future years it can't change, and it isn't to say that in this year, if you have a motion for 2/3 majority, that you can't change an individual one that you feel is deserving. But that's kind of the history of how the distribution of those extra dollars has worked over the last few years.
And getting to Reagan's point earlier about the percentages, the reason the percentages don't work very well is because we're giving money per point. And so the more dollars you ask for, the likelihood that you're going to have a shortfall, because it's a per point and not a percentage basis. So that's how the higher the dollars, the more likely you are to get a lower percentage of your request, just because of the math.
Sure.
Yes, Dale.
Just for future reference, it would be nice to have all of those columns on this sheet so that we could see, I mean, there, you know, how the
Gotcha.
and maybe it would just confuse me more, but it would be nice to be able to see, okay, this got 8, this got 7, this got 6, and then this was the money that was left over.
I think in the paper that you have, so the column that you have where it says additional funds to awarded to high scoring applicants, it's the sum of these 3 columns. I just didn't show all the steps is what ended up happening. So that column where it says 1,500 for Friendly House, it's the extra they got in these 2 columns plus the adjustment I had to do to get them under their request.
Yeah.
So, but I can break that out for you in the future. I'll just, Dawn, if you could. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mark.
Well, the formula calculates a suggestion that assumes all the dollars have been awarded. So, you know, because the CAC is a recommending body, you have the right to change these calculations because the CAC hasn't voted on them yet, and certainly council hasn't. So nothing has truly been awarded yet, but the formula assumes all of the dollars will be awarded, yes.
So now it's just a process of, if we want to adjust the figures, we can, but
Correct.
every dollar, according to the formula, has been allocated to its proper place.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll keep discussion going. Is family resource? Yes, Jim.
I would make a motion that we increase the amount allocated to the family resources by $1,667, which would fully fund that position, and take it from the Salvation Army Service Center. My reason for doing this is Family Resources Safe Path Survivor request is, to the best of my knowledge, first of all, they're only, like I said, a very 0.34% from being the top vote getter. They're the 4th highest. I think they're the only agency in the community that provides the service of walking people through the legal process when they're victims of domestic violence. Primarily, they're going to be women. And they actually come sit with them and take them through the steps in the courthouse. They don't just give them guidance and say, go here, go there. They walk with them. And I think anytime we're involved in a legal process, it's complicated and often difficult to understand. And I think, especially when you're dealing with something like domestic violence, it would help to have somebody who would provide you guidance and comfort and a little bit of counseling when they do that. And while I don't want to take anything from any of the public service people, it has to come from somewhere. The Salvation Army is just undergoing a recent change in how they operate. I don't think we're real sure exactly how that's going to work and everything. And they were the lowest rated by all of us in terms of the points they received. And it's a relatively small amount of money, and it will provide services for the advocate who walks these clients through the process under the Family Resources Program.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll
I second.
If anybody wants to see what it would look like, it's on the screen. This farthest to the right column is the adjustment.
Roll call on that motion?
Gil Gilmore,
Yes.
Joe Heinrich,
No.
Elizabeth Hodges,
Yes.
Jim Hebner. Yes. Mark Holloway,
No.
Reagan Johnson,
Yes.
Christina Kelly,
Yes.
Chad Kiefer,
No.
Tammy Lord,
Yes.
Renita Mack,
Yes.
Chris Miller,
Yes.
Martha Neal,
Yes.
Joseph Ogleton,
Yes.
Fred Klassen,
Yes.
David Corn.
Okay, motion carried. All right, next discussion is Big Brothers. Big Sisters. Vernita?
I make a motion to increase Big Brothers Big Sisters by $6,500, taking from Humility of Mary Shelter and Housing. The reason why I would like to increase Big Brothers Big Sisters is because of the powerful positive that they are displaying. They are working with law enforcement. We have such a horrible epidemic right now with our youth in our communities that we need structure. We need support with our youth. We need to be there for them. They have one-on-one counselors, mentors. They're with them daily. And it's a great program, as well as Humility of Mary Shelter is also. However, they're only open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And they are still getting funding. If we take the $6,500 from them, they would still be at $22,401 if I'm correct on my math here. And they are also the next lowest rated from all of us.
I just want to make or remind everyone that we're basing these not on the program, what we voted or what we scored. We're not rating the program, we're rating the application. We're not rating how good the program is versus one versus another.
So in the application, I'm taking the information from the application that they sent in, and I do understand that they did give us their applications. I have that. But I was just also mentioning some of the things the reasons why, if I'm supposed to have a reason, that is the reason why I'm requesting that.
Okay, do I have a second?
Could we hear the numbers just one more time, the plus and minus from where, please?
She's got 'em right up.
Yes, Mark.
I will second that motion.
Any other discussion? Fred?
I could be wrong, but is that like 23% we're taking away from them? To me, that's a little high. Of the what they would have been awarded, we're taking away. To me, that's a little high. It's a lot
22%.
high.
Okay.
Dale?
Yeah, the 1,500 that we did before, 1,600, 1,500 here, there is not a significant amount, but I think 6,500 is a significant percentage, and quite honestly, it's more than I'm comfortable with. I'm not saying that I wouldn't transfer anything, but 6,500 is more than I'm comfortable with.
Bernita?
They requested 40,000, and the calculated award is 33,201. Then I would like to amend that amount to half of that and go to 3,250.
Do we have to rescind that last motion then?
You can amend it, but then your second has to accept that amendment.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Joseph?
One of my concerns is that the places where shelter is, which is also a major problem right now, the less they get, the harder it is for them to survive. And so it's to me like a catch-22. I definitely believe that our youth should be taken care of the best we can. I also believe that if we don't have housing, then it also put more youth in a worse situation than they may have been in otherwise.
Fred?
One other possible thing that's going to happen is if we do end up with additional funds, it will go to big brothers and big sisters in a bigger chunk than it would other people, and they would get funded that way. Conversely, if we lose funds, everybody's going to take a hit also. But if we do have a reallocating of funds, there will be the biggest benefactor of that, is my guess. And so I just can't do the 3,250. I'm sorry.
Okay, any other discussion? Heather?
I just want to, for the new members, clarify, explain a little bit Fred's point. So I said at the beginning that all of this allocation is based on an estimate. So right now, all the indications we're getting from HUD, all the indications we're getting from our national organization is that we will be level funded for the year that begins July 1st as we were in the year that we're currently in. So that is where we took our estimated grant amount, which is 1.4 million and some change. $1,401,803 because I got it in my head. So that is what our estimate is. So, but as we discussed, we don't get our actual dollar amount until May and sometimes June, sometimes later, but usually May or June. And so at that time, we get an actual number, and it may be a little bit higher, it may be a little bit lower. The last couple years, knock on wood, it's been a little bit higher, so we're feeling very lucky. So at the end of tonight's meeting, we will ask the CAC to vote on some contingency language that says if we get a little more or a little less, how is that little more or a little less going to be dealt with? And usually what we say is there's a percentage, and we'll make across-the-board increases or across-the-board decreases depending on what the percentage is. And to Fred's point, under the current setup here, Friendly House is maximum funded, Project Renewal is maximum funded, Boys and Girls Club isn't. So they would get it looks like if we got an increase, they stand to gain up to about 6,000, 5,000 or so. Family Resources, under this most recent motion, is maximum funded. So then Big Brothers Big Sisters would stand to gain. Their current would be 33, so they could gain up to about 7,000 additional dollars if we get additional. Now, if we get slightly less than what we believe, then everybody would get. If we get 2% less, then everybody gets a 2% cut. If we get 5% less, everybody gets a 5% cut. But when we get more money, because nobody can get more than what they requested, it isn't quite exactly across the board. It's across the board amongst those that still have room under their requests. So I just wanted to make sure I fully explained how that would work for the new people.
All right, any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Joe Heinrichs,
No.
Elizabeth Hodges,
No.
Jim Hebner,
No.
Mark Holloway,
No.
Reagan Johnson,
No.
Christina Kelly,
No.
Chad Kiefer,
No.
Tammy Lord,
No.
Renita Mack,
Yes.
Chris Miller,
No.
Martha Neal,
No.
Joseph Ogleton,
No.
Fred Clausen,
No.
David Freund, Gail Gilmore.
No.
Motion does not pass. All right, next agency we'll discuss, Vera French. Seeing none, Humility of Mary. Seeing none, Salvation Army. Yes, Chris.
I just had a general comment on that one. I found the application to be incomplete, and under their succession plan, they don't have one.
They are undergoing program changes. I know that they've been working hard at it this year. As you may recall, they made some changes last year after the allocation vote was made, but before the program year began. And the CAC made the determination that they would be eligible for CDBG funded, but only from October 1st on, because that was when they were going to move to their new location. So with that in mind, they have only been up and running a few months now. So we are working with them. Dawn works with them on a regular basis. And we're just now getting to the point where we're getting their reimbursements in and processed regularly. So we are working with them, we're watching them closely, and your point is taken, and we can pass that back on to them.
Well, on the compliance side, have they filed their report that on the report card we had gotten, they had not done it?
They did. They were late, but they did it. Because to your point, on the day that we met to discuss the report card,
Yes.
the report was due that day, but since the day wasn't over yet, I couldn't let you know if they had got it at all. They did get it, but they got it late. So, but they did get it in.
Okay, but still, when I look at their, everyone had to provide a succession plan. So if person number one couldn't complete the job, well, first off, person number one had a quality check, and then a third person who would take over if the first person wasn't. Well, when the person taking over is the first person, and then when there is no person, and then on the third part where there's no quality check, they scare me. Their new program, I don't think, is well defined. I don't know that they know what it is, which makes me very uncomfortable.
And I can appreciate that. And from a federal standpoint, know that we have to be very closely involved with them just because they are such a new program. So we are talking with them regularly. We do have additional information that they submit back to us because of the nature of their program. Since they're doing the emergency assistance, we have to have them document their time and who they're working with during their time, just to make sure that everything is flowing exactly the way we would expect to see it. And then the other thing that we get from them, just to make sure that their production, if you want to call it that, the quantity of assistance and the quantity of people that they're seeing are enough to justify the staff that's being paid to see those people, is we have them give us the list of who came in, how many people got assistance, how many people were turned away, those kinds of things. So we do get more metrics from them than we get from some of the other programs, and that's just because of the nature of the program they have. So we're keeping an eye on it and working with them. It's the first year of a program. It is a program that's eligible, so we have to find a way to make it work and make the documentation work. But you know, compliance is always a concern with everyone, and we are working as closely as we can with them to keep them on the straight and narrow and get them started in a positive way for the future. Because Salvation Army, though this program is new, has been a subrecipient for a long time with their shelter program that they no longer operate. And some of the staff is the same, though not all of it. So they're new and they're not new at the same time. So we're trying to just get them set up strong for the future.
Okay, thank you for your answers.
Yes, Joe.
I make a motion that we accept the allocation formula that is presented currently.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call? Or Reagan?
I'm sorry if I'm a little late on this, but I guess I just have a really a hard time myself giving, and I understand what you were explaining before, is that it depends on what your request amount is, but for somebody that's lower on the totem pole to be getting 100% of their request, and then somebody who we've rated higher to only be getting 87% of the request, just kind of bothers me a little bit. And I guess I didn't figure out what, I'm going to figure out one number real quick, and then I may make a motion.
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor to approve, so do you
Oh.
withdraw your motion?
I'm
Or
sorry.
Table it, or
We need to.
table it, okay.
I'm sorry. So,
Okay.
real quick. Oops. Now I can't do math fast because everybody's waiting for me.
What percent are you trying to hit? I can do it on the screen if that
No.
makes it easier.
24 at 963. Divided by- gosh.
What do you mean by tabling a motion? Because I thought the motion had to be cleared before we can accept any other motions anyway.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, I'm ready to make a motion if
Okay.
the table is cleared. All right, thank you. I would like to make a motion to move $3,037 from Vera French to the Boys and Girls Club, which would then give the Boys and Girls Club 95% of their request, and it would reduce Vera French to 89% of their request.
And what was the amount again?
$3,037, which would make the total amount for Boys and Girls Club 38,000. Is that correct? Which is 95% of their request.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
Well,
David?
it would seem to me that, going back to Bernita's thing, we're at the same point, right? We just rejected reducing somebody by 12, 13% to give Boys and Girls Club more. So we're just changing organizations that we're reducing, right? We were reducing Humility of Mary, now we're saying we're reducing Vera French. But it's it's essentially the same motion, we're just substituting agencies.
Any other discussion on it? Joseph?
Yes, my concern, it seems like we're now punishing Vera French for not requesting more money.
I do understand that. And that, clearly is not my intent. I guess that's why, clearly no system is perfect. But I just, if we don't feel that they did 100% on their application, I guess to me, it's odd that we want to give them 100% of their request. But I do understand where you're coming from as far as, I don't mean to punish, but it just, if there's a higher rated cause, I don't understand why we wouldn't give them more.
Yes, Fred?
If you look at the percentage of the points received, there's like 0.4% difference between the two. And to me, that doesn't merit that kind of a change. I'm sorry.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call?
Elizabeth Hodges,
No.
Jim Hefner,
No.
Mark Holloway,
No.
Reagan Johnson,
Yes.
Christina Kelly,
Yes.
Chad Kiefer,
No.
Tammy Lord,
No.
Bernita Mack,
No.
Chris Miller,
Yes.
Martha Neal,
No.
Joseph Ogleton,
No.
Fred Clausen,
No.
David Freund, Gail Gilmore,
No.
Joe Heinrich.
No.
Motion does not carry. Yes, Joe?
I make a motion that we accept the allocation as recommended on the board at this moment.
Fred?
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
You guys are keeping me busy. I'm ready. Jim Hefner,
Yes.
Mark Holloway,
Yes.
Reagan Johnson,
Yes.
Christina Kelly,
Yes.
Chad Kiefer,
Yes.
Tammy Lord,
Yes.
Bernita Mack,
Yes.
Chris Miller,
Yes.
Martha Neal,
Yes.
Joseph Ogleton,
Yes.
Fred Clausen,
Yes.
David Freund, Dale Gilmore,
Yes.
Joe Heinrich,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hodges.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Don't need a motion to go to it, but we'll need a motion for a dollar amount for planning and admin and rehab staff and supplies.
Okay.
For the sake of expediency, I'm gonna make a motion, and
Okay.
you guys can shoot it down, okay? But, but if we do city planning and administration for the amount requested, and we do the, supplies for the amount requested, and reduce the neighborhood revitalization to 427,000, and the economic development of 216,424, that comes to exactly the amount we have to allocate, which is $1,151,803. So we need to cut $66,576 from the budget.
Heather?
It's like you do math for a living or something. What I would, from a staff perspective, I would propose maybe just making the first half of your motion for the rehab staff and supplies, and I think you'll find that the second half of your motion will resolve itself once the formula can calculate itself out. So if you were so inclined to make a motion to fund the city planning administration and the housing rehab staff and supplies at the requested amount, which is I think what I heard from you at
Yes.
the beginning, then I can show you the calculated amount, and I think you'll find it works out.
That will be, I'm not worried about dollars, or a few dollars. Yeah, so I will make change my motion then to fully fund the city planning and administration and the city housing rehabilitation staff and supplies for the amounts as shown on the sheets.
Jim,
Second.
any discussion? Roll call?
Mark Holloway,
Yes.
Reagan Johnson,
Yes.
Christina Kelly,
Yes.
Chad Kiefer,
Yes.
Tammy Lord,
Yes.
Bernita Mack,
Yes.
Chris Miller,
Yes.
Martha Neal,
Yes.
Joseph Ogleton,
Yes.
Fred Klassen,
Yes.
David Freund,
Yes.
Dale Gilmore,
Yes.
Joe Heinrich,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hodges,
Yes.
Jim Hebner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So same as the bottom half, you see there was the total calculated award. The arrows get a little awkward here. There's the dollars according to the pie. There's how much was awarded additional because of points left on the table. And then there's the formula calculated amount, which allocate exactly what is left available. So on this sample example, it would be $383,424 for Housing Rehab Neighborhood Revitalization Fund, which, as you know, is the funding for housing rehabs and infrastructure improvements. And then $250,000 for the Economic Development Fund, which is the money for small business loans and facade grants, things like that. So this would be the way the formula would recommend it, though the CAC can vote to override again with a 2/3 majority vote. I would point out the reason that the lower score capped out at 250 is just because that's what they requested. So they received their full funding, and then the extra was only available for the remaining program in that category.
Yes, Fred.
Couple of questions. First question is, if we should get reduced funding, will that still will those two still go to the cap? Or will they be reduced? And then secondly, is there any program income that will pick up slack on the housing and rehab and that kind of stuff?
The program income we will vote on when we get to the next tab. There's some program income that goes into both the fund and the staff and supplies, and that applies for both economic development and housing rehab. So each of them will have some program income that goes into assisting with those.
But in the event that we don't get the flat amount,
Okay.
let's say we were reduced by 15%.
Sure.
I hope not, but let's say we were. Then that total, the 262.17, is that going to be reduced by 10%?
Typically, when we do across the board cuts, it's across the board, and it would include the planning and admin. So if that would happen, we'd have to look and see what our calculations would be for program income to see if there's anything that could be done, but that would have to come back to CAC if that would occur.
Because to me, it would be, those are staff and supplies and planning and administration are constants. And to me, if we received a 10% cut or something like that, it would make more sense to take it away from the rehab or the economic development fund than it would from that one, because those are people and those are programs that we can adjust. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not making a motion.
Okay. Thanks. I don't believe we have a motion on the floor at the moment. Yeah, I explained it, so if somebody has a motion, feel free to make it. Otherwise, I'm available for questions.
Yes, Fred.
I would move that we fully fund planning and administration, housing rehabilitation staff.
Already did that.
We did that part.
Okay, so then what?
We're funding now for the neighborhood revitalization fund and.
Well,
the
okay
economic
then,
development fund.
let me move to fund according to the formula, those two items.
Do I have a
I'll second that.
Joseph? Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, so before you now see the full slate for approval. The next thing we would need a motion is in that bottom left corner to approve the use of program income towards the Economic Development Fund and the Housing Rehabilitation. Down in the lower left corner, 46,399 for the Economic Development and 196,972 for the Housing Rehab. I would point out we did not request any program income for planning and administration this year.
Fred?
Yeah, if we didn't approve that, what does that mean?
Well, the Economic Development Fund funds 20% of the staff of our two economic development staff people, so that would leave a hole in the budget to cover them. And then the housing rehab staff and supplies, that covers 100% of the salary for our two rehab specialists who do all of our work write-ups and things like that. So it would be staff that would feel the impact of that.
Okay, so this then basically is funding that's taken back out of the program to keep the program running.
Yeah.
Okay, I would move that we approve that. It's money that's available through that program, right?
Correct.
It's not coming out of any grant, it's
Correct.
money that's already there.
This
Okay.
is money that has been earned in program income. So we've made loans, payments have come back, and we use a portion of those loan repayments to help support the staff that run the program.
Okay, so that's my motion then, that we go ahead and approve that.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Martha?
That means that's money we actually have.
Well, we're projecting forward. It's money we're expecting to earn next year. So you can't ever count dollars before you have them. But we make very conservative estimates of what we think we'll earn and calculate based on that.
But are we earning it from the money we're going to receive from the, no, okay, that's what I
It's-
want,
Yep, it's
yeah. The federal government isn't,
correct.
Okay,
It's
that's what I wanted
over
to
the
make.
past 40 years, the city has operated revolving loan funds for both housing and economic development. And every time you loan out money and those payments come back, it goes back into the revolving loan fund to be loaned out again. So it all stays within the program. Every dollar earned on a federal dollar stays a federal dollar forever. So it goes back into the revolving loan funds to be either loaned out for new programs, new projects, or in this case, to be used to support the program in another way.
Fred?
Yes, we also convinced them in the last couple of years to add like a 2% on the loans, and
Yep.
then they're using that money so they can go out and even do more loans.
Yeah.
So
the housing
it's-
rehab has always charged an interest rate. The economic development loans at the CAC suggestion started charging a 2% interest. And again, that's just to build up the revolving loan fund. It's not profit. It just goes into the program again.
It's in anticipation that someday this will all dry up.
Correct.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Yes.
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 David Florence,
Yes.
Dale Gilmore,
Yes.
Joe Heinrich,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hodges,
Yes.
Jim Hefner,
Yes.
Mark Holloway,
Yes.
Reagan Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Heather?
and one more final motion to approve the whole slate as you see it represented in front of you. And then you're done. Oh, wait. No, you're not. Oh, yeah, you're right. Thanks for the reminder.
I move we,
I lied.
Joe?
I move we accept the slate as presented.
Second.
Tammy? Any discussion? Roll call?
Sorry, I gotta fold my sheet now. Guys, it's so many. I gotta work my sheet out. All right, okay. Chad Kiefer,
Yes.
Tammy Lord,
Yes.
Renita Mack,
Yes.
Chris Miller,
Yes.
Martha Neal,
Yes.
Joseph Ogleton,
Yes.
Fred Clausen,
Yes.
David Freund,
Yes.
Dale Gilmore,
Yes.
Joe Heinrich,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hodges,
Yes.
Jim Hefner,
Yes.
Mark Holloway,
Yes.
Reagan Johnson,
Yes.
Christina Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries. Fred?
I would move that we allow staff to adjust up to 15% plus or minus any deviation in the funds that was anticipated, so that we don't have to come back and redo this all again, and they will adjust according to formula.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call again, Dawn.
I like you guys. This is fun. Okay. Tammy Lord,
Yes.
Renita Mack,
Yes.
Chris Miller,
Oops, yes.
Martha Neal,
Yes.
Joseph Ogleton,
Yes.
Fred Clausen,
Yes.
David Freund,
Yes.
Dale Gilmore,
Yes.
Joe Heinrich,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hodges,
Yes.
Jim Hefner,
Yes.
Mark Holloway,
Yes.
Reagan Johnson,
Yes.
Christina Kelly,
Yes.
Chad Kiefer.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item is other business.
I don't have anything for you except just a reminder, you are a recommending body, so this recommendation will go to City Council for March 20th for the City Committee of the Whole, where there will be a public hearing. And then, assuming all things pass, it will go before City Council for approval on March 27th. And then the next step after that is submitting it to HUD, which will happen no later than May 15th. So we'll go through that process and hopefully we'll get our numbers and it'll be within the 15%. The last 2 years, it's been slightly more than 10. So I'm hoping with this year with 15, we'll hit it just right. And then that's about it. So thank you all for your time. I know this was tough, but you're all through your first one. Don't you feel proud?
Yes, Joe.
I was just going to say, thank you all for the work that you've put into this. We've had years where it's been a lot more difficult, but I was very impressed, especially with the questions that were asked in the last couple months. People are really taking this seriously, and thank you very much for taking part in this.
Jim?
Good point, Joe, and I'm glad you brought that up. Excellent. Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Yay, thank you everybody. I think, is it one of those two or did you give it to me in there? Okay. I was so afraid I was gonna blind you, like on some of those low ones. I was like, it's
dodged out of here.